So Mr. Thompson, what are we doing in a chicken coop? This is not our normal venue.
Well, I think first you have to go in and pick a chicken up to really understand.
I'm gonna touch a chicken today. Just grab a chicken. That's your direction. Go over there, grab a chicken that's making that sound.
This is a maneuver we call the chicken cha-cha. Just dance your way in there, grab the chicken, don't let the wings flap.
Oh, are you gonna peck my legs? Is that what you're thinking about?
And cute little fella. Flappy little guy, look at that. Oh, this is the big fella.
Holy I didn't want to hurt your wings.
Yes!
Hello! I wish I knew your name.
Time for the chicken cha-cha.
Okay, why are we sitting at this table?
We're going to do an episode on games, introductory games, gateway games for you kids, ages 4 to 7.
This is very important because this is the time of a child's life when they're really going to pick up the habits of board gaming.
And sometimes you'll find that you need to learn one game in order to advance to another game. Perfect example of that is Goblet Gobblers. This is basically advanced tic-tac-toe. You, instead of just putting your X's and O's down, you actually can cover up the other people by the person. So there's some strategic thinking in there. So as a teacher with my kid, I like the fact that they're learning how to strategize in a more complex way than tic-tac-toe. So I mean, start with tic-tac-toe, build to that, and when they become an adult, this one's a little more complex and finely tuned version of it.
And I could see them building into even more advanced games like Origins or Quattro or one of the bigger games, Othello, things like that. This game is a wonderful game that I've just actually played very recently. It's called Monster Factory, and it is really introductory Carcassonne. It's a tile-laying game where you're trying to build a monster, and there's a little bit of strategy as to, do you build your first monster quickly, or do you make it as big as possible but maybe lose out on points because you don't get your monster finished in the end? That's
right. Ultimately, you're trying to get as many eyeballs as possible on the monster, so it engages your kids, and it's a lot of fun for the imagination. They love at the end. Half the time I find they don't even care about the objective, which is getting the biggest or the best monster. They just want to say, look at how crazy my monster is.
When I played this game with my daughters, the first thing was they were pointing to each other, oh, you won, and that was good. And I was worried that it was going to become a little competitive, but they quickly turned it into, tell me a story about your monster, and then we had to go through every tile and explain all of the funny things that are happening. And it turned a game into another game. It was wonderful.
You might have played Sneaky Snake as a kid. This is a derivative of that. It's very good. Hey, that's my fish. I just picked this game up, little one. It's about 10 bucks. It's fun. You just lay down the tiles. You have to strategically think, and I played this with my 5-year-old with a lot of success. You have to think about where you're going to move in order to collect the most amount of fish. But what I really loved about the teaching side of it at the end was it helped her count by 1s, 2s, and 3s. So instead of going 1, 2 points, 3, 4, 5 points, you know, she has to go 2 points, 5 points, 7 points. And it was a really neat way to teach her basic math skills.
What I like about that game is that it's a game I think you and I would play with some interesting strategy. And so a game that's really got one learning objective at the beginning has a completely different goal later on.
That's right.
You may have played the ubiquitous Uno, but this game is just wonderful. It's Uno Mu. There are little player boards that hide what you have, and then you've got all of these very colorful little creatures that are different colors, plus they're different types, and they have different rules for them. So you end up playing a game of Uno, but you have this little trap door and they get pushed back in, and it's just a fun game. In fact, my daughters, when they used to play this, would just play with the tokens as well, because they're very fun.
Right. My 2-year-old plays with this as a toy. My daughter can play with it as a game. So there's an interesting distinction there. I'd also like to mention Rio Grande Games. They've been very kind and have sent us some games to play, and they're excellent. Jay Tummelson has said that their games are simple to learn, but not necessarily simple to play. I think that's true of the adult versions of the games too, but Chicken Cha-Cha is a memory game where kids have to flip over the right cards in order to move their chicken around the circumference of the game. And when they bypass another player, they take their tail feathers. That's the only downside to the game, is that sometimes kids don't want their tail feathers taken.
But that's a great parenting moment. You want your children to be able to compete, try their hardest, but not cringe at the thought of failure.
That's right, absolutely. I sat around with a group of adults the other day once my daughter had tired of it and ran off to play, and we played this as adults, and it was still a lot of fun. So. And
I managed to do a real Chicken Cha-Cha, as was videographed just earlier in this very episode.
Yes, it was phenomenally impressive. Check out our bonus footage to check out some of those attempts as well.
It was all awesome. Talking about memory, Talking about proper memory, the Magic Labyrinth is a memory game with a twist. This is a maze. You have to get around to different objectives that change over the course of the game. But the maze itself is hidden underneath the board, and a magnetic ball is moved with your token. And if you move accidentally through a wall, the magnetic ball falls off, giving you some information. What's great about this game is that my 6-year-old daughter really understands it, but she sometimes struggles with remembering all the maze for the whole game. So there are some little visual cues that you can have when you figure out there's a wall there. You can put a little like toothpick down or something to help you with that. But my 9-year-old doesn't need that. So this is a great game to scale the challenge on the type of the age of the child that you're playing with.
Very good. I would like to say too that with games like Labyrinth and Chicken Cha-Cha, you might find as an adult that your 5-year-old can beat you, and I think that's a wonderful moment that they can legitimately remember the board better than you can, and that's awesome to foster that.
We have both wanted to play the game Guggulu, and yes. I've never played it, but I have heard that actually children have an advantage over adults because we have these big sausagey fingers, and they have these little toothpicky fingers that help them get the eggs out of the basket in the center.
You're just about to reprint that one shortly, but if you're looking for a dexterity game, that would be a great choice. So our last one is Bugs in the Kitchen. I would say this is more of a toy than a game.
Yeah, you know, it was one that was introduced to me through the Dice Tower, and I have another friend who owns this as well. I've not played it, but I have a niece who really loves these hex bugs. So I could see that she would love this game because she loves hex bugs, but I don't know if this is a long-term game. But you know what? Setting it up and having a little bug race around through a maze sounds like a lot of fun too.
That's right. Great opportunity though to pull out a board game rather than just sending your kid off to watch TV for a half hour. You know, you can interact with them, you can have some really fun moments, some great memories, and I think board gaming at a young age is really great for kids.
I think one thing though that I was having a difficulty with when we were discussing this episode is that I think when you are trying to come up with games to use with your children, you have to use games that you're interested in as well. Because the other thing that would be terrible to do is, here, take this, go into the other room, don't bother me for half an hour. Well, maybe it's okay that they're playing with it as a toy by themselves occasionally. It's really, I think, the value of games is being able to sit in a group of people and commune with them, be with them. You know, you go on a date to a movie, and you know the criticism always is that you're never talking to the person beside you, but when you're having a board game, man, you have to be in the room with that person. You cannot play a board game just with the game. You're playing with somebody else.
So that's how you can use some of these games with your kids this summer. What I love about these games is you can build up from a game that's really simple, like Chicken Cha-Cha.
Or Monster Factory.
Up to a really complex game, like Puerto Rico, which is one of my all-time favorite games.
Or you can go to the very intense cooperative game Space Alert.
You could have a little spin-off from Puerto Rico, a little simpler version of this.
You could even get into the genre-defining deck-building game Dominion.
Or if you just want some fun with some pirates and collecting treasure, the Caribbean's a really fun game that way.
If you want something a little bit more strategic and decision-making, 20th Century is there for you.
Absolutely. So, thanks very much for joining us this episode. Don't forget to join us on Twitter. Check out Facebook, Board Game Geek.
Subscribe to our channel. And, as always,
Teaching rules. Man versus chicken. Who will dominate?
I can't do it. Look, they've all moved away from me. They hate me. This is terrifying and awesome at the same time. But I don't know what I'm going to do once I'm holding the chicken. Ooh, are you okay? Okay, I tap out. I can't do it.
Oh, you can't tap out. This is rolling. You can't give up on national YouTube.
National YouTube. Oh, big bird. He's too fast for me. I really want this to happen. I just don't think it's going to.